Hello, everyone. Alex Sokol Blosser here. Welcome to our fourth episode of From Our Land to Your Hand. And again, this is the fourth episode. And there are four legs to the wine quality stool. So we started one of those four legs. We started talking about the soil. That's muy importante. The second, we talked about climate. Got to have climate. That's got to be a leg of the stool. Right soil, right climate's important. Last week we talked about clones. That's important. It's not everything, but it's important. And aujourd'hui, we're talking about rootstocks. So that's the four legs of the quality stool for wine. So rootstocks might be my favorite part of this, might be my favorite stool, just because it's a fascinating discussion. So this is going to be a two-part thing. We're going to have the inside part, which is right now, and then we're going to go outside the vineyard and we're going to have an outside part. So get ready to have to push the play button twice. Okay, so rootstocks. Let me give you a little pictorial from my wonderful drawing ability. Okay, you're like, Alex, what's a rootstock? I hear you. Okay, so here you go. Here you go. I know, this is amazing. Okay, so this line is the ground, okay? This is the ground. And imagine that this is a vine, all right? This is a vine. You with me? All right. So, and these are the roots. Good roots in the ground. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. Rootstock. The rootstock just sits a little bit above the ground, and then there's a graft union. There's a graft. That this is where the clone that you want to put in your vineyard is grafted onto the rootstock that is actually in the ground. So again, the only thing that touches the ground is the rootstock. The clone is actually above ground. It is above ground. So clone, arrow above the graft union, which is right here. The rootstock is below. In the outside version, I'll show you exactly what this is. Now, we have these are kind of the three main rootstocks we use at Sokol Blosser. 3309 Kudek. So Kudek, that'll be an important word to remember as we talk about the history of rootstocks. So 3309 C is kind of what we call it here in viticulture speak, but it's 3309, the C, what does it stand for? Kudek, a French hero. All right, 10114 and 420A. 420 is my favorite rootstock, but what do they have in common? It's 10114 and 420A, Millardet et de Grasse. That's the full name of what that rootstock is. So remember the word Millardet. Millardet. I can barely speak English, let alone French. So Couderc and Millardet. I just butchered it, sorry. Sorry, Frenchies. Ooh. Okay, so hopefully this gives you an idea. We're gonna be talking about rootstocks, the underworld, right? Hades. Last week we talked about clones, Zeus. Now we're talking about, bad analogy, sorry. Okay, rootstocks, history. This is fascinating history, folks. All right, we're going way back, way back. How about far back, 1868. 1868 in Europe. What was going on? Well, let me tell you. It wasn't good because we just finished our Civil War. But what was going on in Europe, man, was all their vineyards were getting eaten up by a root louse called phylloxera. Phylloxera. Say that 5 times fast after a couple glasses of wine. Might be difficult. So phylloxera is a root louse that destroyed the wine industry in all of Europe starting in 1868. Okay, we're living through a pandemic right now. Imagine Frenchies not able to get wine. Are you kidding me? That'd be insane. And that's what happened, man. Phylloxera just wiped it all out. And how did they figure out what was the vaccine that they figured out? Well, phylloxera, what they found out in 1872, they found out, a Frenchy viticulturist found out that, hey, there is a American vine growing in France that is a vitis species. So we know that all the vines in Europe are vitis vinifera. Vitis vinifera, native to Europe. Well, we don't have any vitis vinifera native to États-Unis or North America. We have 18 to 20 other special vitis species. But what's special about North American vitis species is they're resistant to phylloxera. Okay, so a Frenchy viticulturist found out that he had a vitis, I can't even pronounce that, but it's a North American grapevine, was growing somewhere in France, and he noticed that that is the only vine that didn't die. And he figured out that, wow, what if we graft vitis vinifera on top of that American rootstock, and then voila, we can keep making wine. Okay, all right, so don't tell the French, but the Americans saved all of the French wine industry. Yes, it's what happened. Okay, so this is what happened. So from 1878 to 1910, they did some of the biggest vaccination trials to get the wine industry back up and running in Europe. I mean, it took all those 40 years to figure out which rootstocks. So they brought over 18 different species of North American rootstocks to France. They played around with everything. They figured out, okay, this Pinot Noir, how will it grow on this rootstock? And they figured out that, hey, that rootstock didn't work because the plant died. Or this rootstock didn't work in this soil. This rootstock didn't work in that soil. This rootstock was too vigorous. This rootstock wasn't vigorous enough. The heroes of all that were Millardet and Couderc. Those were the French heroes, man. Those were the two dudes over 40 years of all this crossbreeding and hybridization and all this different stuff, figured out what rootstocks work. And what they figured out, we still use today. So what they figured out in the late 1800s and early 1900s is what we still use today. Don't forget, we use 420A, which is Millardet A de Grasse, and we use 3309C, which is Couderc. Couderc. So seriously, French heroes, because if it weren't for them, there would not be a wine industry in anywhere in Europe, and we wouldn't have one here today. Because when my parents first started planting grapes in 1971, we didn't think we'd get phylloxera. What were they thinking? Phylloxera is native to North America. We gave it to the Europeans. Somewhere before the Civil War time, our Civil War. But what were we thinking, that vitis vinifera we could just plant in North America and phylloxera wouldn't find it? Phylloxera found us in Oregon, and guess what? Boom. It wiped everything we planted in this early 1970s. Boom, wiped out. So we had to start replanting in the mid 1990s, and we didn't finish replanting until like 2010 is when we finished replanting. So Sokol Blosser to this day, it's one of the oldest wineries in the state of Oregon, but we have one of the youngest vineyards because we had to replant everything on rootstock that is resistant to phylloxera. Okay, that is the inside version of this talk. Let's go outside and I'll show you in person about this bad drawing. All right, come with me.